That's karaoke.
Looked up to. Oh, shoot. There we go. All right, it's 5:30 and we'll start right on time. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and if you all would help us stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, John, roll call, please.
All right, Commissioner Kibble,
I'm here.
Commissioner Ettinger,
Here.
Commissioner Jetter,
Here.
Commissioner Provo,
Here.
Commissioner Sahaki,
Here.
Commissioner Callahan,
Here.
Commissioner McAllister,
Here.
and Commissioner Smits.
Here.
Commissioner Underwood is not present. And that's it, we have a quorum.
All right. We'll move on down to first public comment. We'll open the floor to public comment. If anybody would like to make public comment. We do have a public comment at the end also, so. Anybody like to give public comment? None? I think we get out of reading the
All right.
approval or additions to the agenda. If we could, anybody have any additions or changes to the agenda? With that, can I get a motion of approval?
I'll make a
Jamie?
motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
And second.
Second by John Sahaki. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. With that, special orders of business.
All right, we have one special order of business tonight. Andrew McDonald from Blue Water Promotions is joining us today, and Andrew does a number of shows at Civic Center, or Howe Arena, and he's joined us to tell us a little bit about those shows, how they went this year, and what the plans are for next year. So Andrew, if we could have you come up to the podium. Welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you so much for allowing us to speak here. And we are very grateful to Kara and John and the staff. Actually, I've been around a while now. I think this is my maybe my third director of Park and Rec, but I can tell you that it's never been better with this administration team. We're very grateful for the service. It's been really great as of late. We were able to start a third show this year. We produced the Traverse City Boat Show, the Up North Lake and Cottage Show, and the Big Boy Toy Show. The Big Boy Toy Show was new. We were a little nervous about it. Whenever you start a new show, it's just kind of like you just don't know. But it had been done in other parts of the country, and early returns from the exhibitors, which is really what counts the most. If they do well, they'll come back. If they don't, they're not. It's just that simple. But I gotten with about 50%, they plan on coming back, and so we're grateful for that. And it's been a pretty good season. It is harder and harder through the years to draw people. I think that's just in society, just because I think there's so many things that people can do, especially in a town like Traverse City. We used to, years ago, would always be open till 8 p.m. We are on Friday nights, but not on Saturday nights, because it's just harder and harder. And when you keep those exhibitors there and there's not a lot of people going through, it's a frustrating time frame for them. So we've adjusted to that, and that's worked out well. But we're very grateful. This is our home base. I live in Traverse City. The shows are very important to us. We're a small company, just 2 full-timers, myself, and like 3 part-timers. But it's working out, and we're very grateful to John and Kara, and, you know, I mean, gosh, Joe and Ross, the electricians, and Scott, who helps us clean up, and Ariel in the office. Everyone's been great.
Yeah.
Any questions or any? Yes, sir.
Recently we were looking at it, and I think, gosh, we only have 3 free weekends available now in our show season, which is exciting, and you, of course, are a part of that. Do you find that there's anything on our end that would be limiting to you to utilize the space more, whether that be availability of that space, size of the space, infrastructure that might be lacking for you?
Infrastructure is great. I don't know how many years ago, and I don't know if it was during John's tenure or not. I know Center Ice, and I know they're very important. They took another weekend which kind of pushed us back. And I'm not here to try to take that weekend back, but if that ever happened, we would gladly do it, because in the consumer event business, which is really what we are, you might notice they all stack up January, February, March. Well, that's a reason for that, because that's when you're going to draw people. When it's sunny and 70 like today, they're not coming as much. So that's why we all kind of jam up there. I know there was a senior expo. I don't know if they're back, John, or not.
They're not this year.
Okay. There is an opportunity to do something like that, because you can do that in the middle of the week. We've not done that. We do 6 shows altogether in our, 3 in Traverse, 2 in Gaylord, and 1 in Frankenmuth. But I know that if that were to ever happen, if there were ever, and I'm not suggesting that eventuality happens, but if that weekend in March that used to be the hunting and fishing show, that I know it would be, we'd fill it, and you'd probably increase your chances of us maybe doing another show or someone else coming along. But it's really about timing. Timing is crucial in our little industry. Yes, sir.
Also, in our master plan, we have, in theory, an expanded area there, whether that be another sheet of ice, another space, whatever that may look like there. From your perspective, in the business side of things, is there any value to having larger venue space at the Civic Center, or does it work well as it is for you today?
Well, since we produce a boat show, and of course those take up lots of space, and I know there's an RV show done by Marvac there, there's no question that a second, if you want to call it a twin building there, would be of incredible value. When the new bleachers went in, and I know that was a gift, and and that was great because the old bleachers were dying, what happened was we lost 6 feet because those come out 6 more feet. So we actually lost 1,000 square feet. So I had to go back to the boat dealers and say, gosh, I'm sorry, guys, I gotta shorten your space. Now, they all hung with us, but there'd be no question. So right now, by way of our figuring, because we, unfortunately, that not to bring up a bad word, but they call us space hogs because we want every square inch. When we go into a facility, we want every piece because we use it as John and Kara, because sometimes we block closets, so not that we do that on purpose, but there'd be no question that a second facility would be of great value. And if we had 38,000 square feet to produce the Traverse City Boat Show, that would be an incredible pull for the show, and actually be an incredible pull for the market, because we do draw somewhat, but we're limited by the square footage. If we had 38,000 square feet, that would turn into quite an important boat show that would really draw from all over the state. And I know the same would be sure for the RV show. Now, having said that, I have a 10-year-old son that plays American Legion baseball. And I know if that in the master plan, which I'm familiar with, sir, I know where that would go. And, taking away a ball diamond would be very tough, it's a park, as I realize. And I've learned to appreciate through the years. It's not just a facility that we use. It's a park, and it's important for all users. But if it ever were to work out, there'd be no question that I know the boat show, and I'd be able to probably lower my square foot price from what I charge. We'd have more boats, and it would turn into quite an important venue at that point. Not that it's not important now, but for example, at Ellison Place, which we rent, that's 30,000 square feet. We're renting we're putting 19,000 square feet. Frankenmuth is 26,000 square feet. When we were in Birch Run, that was 60,000 square feet. So there's no question this market, we're very grateful for the Civic Center, but it is undersized. There's no question. But I realize this, the buildings are a lot to heat, they're a lot to cool, they're a lot to maintain. And that's why probably an entrepreneur's not come along and said, hey, let's put a Civic Center in Traverse City. Well, they're not exactly, I think, great economic models necessarily, which is why municipalities are typically the ones that are doing that. And I know that typically they don't cash flow. But absolutely, if there were a second facility, it would be a huge boost to us. But I understand the other side of that coin. If you lose a baseball diamond, that has a little bit of downside too.
Thanks so much for that perspective. Appreciate it.
Sir. Any other?
Any other brothers? With that said, Andrew, I think that's it. Thank you for continuing to work with us and continuing to fill that space. I think you're seeing a lot of effort go into the whole park and the walking track and all. I did notice this year you parked boats outside. I hope that helped draw people, seeing them along Front Street there or Granville Parkway, whatever you want to call it that day.
There's no question, and that it's kind of an interesting point, and I want to just relay one quick story on that. I know it is a park, and John was kind enough to work with me, and of course, we do pay a fee to the county for that privilege, as is appropriate. And so, and I've had a couple different people come, and we had a dealer, I won't name him necessarily, but he wouldn't mind, but I still won't name him. He had a boat out there. He didn't have a booth inside. I said, put a nice sign out there. And he put a nice sign out there, and believe it or not, because there's so much traffic on Front Street, and we've talked about this, someone drove around the Civic Center, wrote down his phone number, called him, and ended up buying the boat.
Nice.
Just from driving by. And, you know, that just, I mean, and John's talked about, and we've talked about an electronic sign out there for the county. I can tell you, we pay handsomely for those Lamar outdoor digital boards, handsomely. I won't quote the number here. I have given it to John. And I do think that if the county were to ever step up to that, to put an electronic board out there, it would represent a revenue opportunity for Grand Traverse County. No question about it.
Well, thank
Andrew
you
is
for
a-
all your insights. That was great. I think it's all for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Andrew could be a world champion at Tetris.
Ooh.
Figuring out how to fit all those boats
boats
in.
in.
There's inches or less than an inch in between some of these boats at some times.
I'm happy it worked out well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We do appreciate it, and we
Thank
hope
you,
to
Andrew.
be here for many more years.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you, Andrew.
Awesome. All right, we'll move on down to the consent calendar. John, you want to read the?
I would be happy to read this. The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will automatically be respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. And this is the only time I get to use the word therefrom. Oh, sorry, I could read the other ones too. Receive and file, number 1, Easling Pool, GT Bay YMCA agreement, membership report for April 2025. Item number 2 under approvals, minutes of the regular meeting of the Grand Traverse County Parks and Recreation Commission on April 10, 2025.
All right. Anybody want to pull something from their consent calendar? With that, can I have a motion to accept the consent calendar as is?
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll support. Thank you, Charlie. Support by Commissioner Jutter. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Awesome. Items. Reports.
All right.
John, I'm going to keep talking here.
All right, so our budget report, so a couple items in the budget report. We had a good revenue month, and so wanted to point out a couple of the line items for everybody's reference. So you'll see $2,910 under electrical connections in Arena. So that is for, just as it sounds, actually it's for, I think it says charges for services. That is electrical connections in the arena from the shows. And Hangry's concessions, we have $689 for the month for Hangry's concessions. You'll also see an odd amount under, I think it's just disposal or something to that effect. I don't have that particular line item in front of me, but $4,677, which was for vehicle sales. We had 2 vehicles, a former truck that came with Camp Greilich. We sold that and replaced that with another vehicle, and then we had another older truck that we moved, or actually a small Ford Focus or Fiesta or something like that, that we had not been used, so we moved that out and were able to use those funds for some other purposes. We have a local grant that you'll see in there, and that's for $21,540. And that is the proceeds from the Forever Greilich Fund. So that is the proceeds from 2024 and 2025, two payments combined together to create that $21,450. And then toward the bottom of the revenue section, you'll see two line items for rent. And our management rent totaled $11,000 this month, and that is for recurring rent on property. And then the other item that is rent is $16,341. So that's things like Andrew's shows and other shows that we host at the arena. So big show month for us. Under expenditures, I mentioned last month that you'd start to see some expenditures appearing for Camp Greilich. So we did have building repair at Camp Greilich totaling $4,483 for the month. And that was a number of items for the cabins most specifically. And we'll talk about those in just a moment. Under contract services, we have a match for the bridge at the Natural Education Reserve. So a $10,000 match that was part of our work plan for the year, along with the Grand Traverse Conservation District's quarterly payment of $11,604. And then some additional expenditures related to septic pumping at Camp Greilich. So we pumped all the septic systems at all the cabins and Besser Lodge and the Dan Beard building. So that is our budget report.
Great.
Any questions?
You hit everything I circled.
All right. Happy to help.
With that, John, director's report.
All right, I will keep going here. So I have the pleasure of introducing our newest team member, Travis Peck. So Travis, I'm going to invite you up to the podium here. Travis has been a fantastic addition in week 3? Week 4 already. All right.
Yep.
A fantastic addition already in week 4. So we're really excited to have him on board, and I'd like to have Travis tell you a little bit about himself.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief. So hello, everybody. I'm Travis Peck. Just started here as a new office coordinator for the Parks and Recreation Department. A little background, I got my degree from Northern Michigan University in Outdoor Recreation Leadership and Management with a minor in Business Administration. Former Eagle Scout, summer camp staff out at Camp Greilich. Very involved with Order of the Arrow and Boy Scouts for a long time growing up. So very excited to see Greilich moving into this hands and see where it's going. I'm very excited to hop on any other projects the county has going. So.
As I mentioned, Travis has done a fantastic job just in his first few weeks jumping in with projects at Greilich, and you'll see our new Food Truck Friday information coming out. He and Kara and Ariel have been working on that the last few days, and just a lot of projects and really doing good things.
Thanks. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, speaking of Greilich, let's talk about a couple things there. So at this last meeting, we talked about the AmeriCorps National Civilian Conservation Corps crew. Unfortunately, there were changes in the governmental funding, so we no longer have that crew. But it's going to slow us down, but it's not going to stop us. It's just going to change a little bit about how we go about opening the park. So we've been going through a process since then. Again, thank you to Kara, to Travis, to Ariel for spearheading that and really putting the call out for volunteer support. It's not that we don't have funding. We have funding to be able to do these sorts of things, but we can open the park faster with that additional community support. So Travis's connections with the Greilich alumni have brought a number of Greilich alumni to us, and we are in the process of setting up a Greilich alumni workday on June 19? 21st, thank you. June 21st. So folks will be coming out and doing a number of projects, so we're working on building that project list for them now. And then we're also working with local residents to support a number of other projects on property. So really excited to be able to engage the local community and engage the alumni who had so much pride and so much enjoyment from the property, and being able to come back in and experience it again, be able to bring it back to life. We're also in the process of working with Seeds and potentially youth work for what I'll call skilled work. So things like trails and building steps. We've got a number of steps on the property that the wood has corroded, and so we'll be looking to replace that and replace those steps along with some erosion control and a few things like that. So the groups like Seeds and Youth Work do an excellent job at those kinds of things. So we'll be able to support those groups and support local as well. I'd mentioned earlier cabin work, so that was one of the things that showed up in the budget for this year. And so we replaced ranges in a few of the cabins. We had gas ranges, and we want to try and get away from having a standing pilot and an open flame in those buildings. So replaced the ranges, worked on the heating in a number of those cabins, replaced some of the water heaters, and then replaced some of the restroom fixturing. And then in addition, as I mentioned earlier, we've also done pumping for septic. Now, just because people aren't going to be staying in those cabins right now, that does not mean that it is all for naught. We're still looking at opportunities, again, for things like the volunteer groups, to be able to have volunteer groups come in, maybe spend a weekend with us, be able to use the cabins for those purposes. So we are ahead on that at this point. We've also continued to work with our trail work group, and we're really close to being able to put together that trail vision. We have a meeting with Grand Traverse Regional Land Conservancy and Northern Michigan Mountain Bike Association most likely next week. Is that right? Yeah, to walk through the trail walking, or to walk through the walking trail plan and make sure that blends with the mountain bike trails. So we're pretty close on that one. And then also a meeting with Aloft Disc Golf to finalize and put the finishing touches in the disc golf plan. So exciting progress. And again, thank you to Kara, thank you to Travis and thank you to all of our partners who've been helping out with that and making sure that they've been engaged and helping us develop that trail system. Stepping away from Greilich, so you may have seen in the news in the last couple of days, so we had more exciting news for Civic Center. So we have been awarded a Michigan Economic Development Corporation Revitalization and Placemaking Grant, so a RAP grant. And that is for $992,000 for the support of Civic Center. So there's three things that are going to fit into that particular grant. One is the South Building restrooms. So we know that for at least the past 3 years, we've been talking about making that happen, and this is going to be the catalyst to be able to make that happen. So our plan is that we're already working on what's called Project Alpha in the county. And with Project Alpha, we'll build a central storage facility down on Lafreniere Road, and that will allow our facilities team to move out of Civic Center and move down to Lafreniere. Well, when that building is vacated, we've been working with Norte. We've got a land lease with Norte, which we'll need to do some modifications to that, but we've got a land lease with Norte, and they would then occupy that space. When they occupy that space, we no longer have access to that space for grooming equipment and other field equipment. So we're going to rebuild those restrooms at the south end, make them nicer restrooms, make them accessible restrooms, and then also build a 2+ bay garage onto the back of that building so we can store all that equipment on site and still have it there. So that is one of the three legs of the grant. The second is the pump track. So the Norte pump, or the pump track that Norte has been developing in the northwest corner, that is a part of this, so that'll give us the opportunity to build that. And then the third piece is additional landscaping on property, particularly around monument signs at the north end and the south end of the park. So I was hoping you'd stay here because we're thinking along the same lines with that. So additional monument signage with the appropriate branding and being able to make sure that people can recognize that this is a park as they're driving down Front Street, and a park that they can be proud of. So again, very excited, very happy, and honored to have been selected by Michigan Economic Development Corporation for this grant. So more to come on projects as we move forward here. Speaking of projects, the walking track continues along. A bridge was removed on April 28th, and they actually poured the second set of wing walls today. As I was leaving the park, I saw the pump truck there, so I swung around and talked to the concrete masons, and they were doing the pouring. They were waiting for the second truck to come to finish those off. So those have been poured. The running track is complete on the outside running track. The existing track surface has been overlaid with gravel and pulverized, and AJ's Construction was working on concrete prep this week. So they'll do concrete work in the park first. Where they can, they're not going to there's a few places that they're going to concrete up to the path, but they can't concrete right up to the path right now, because if they put concrete right to the edges of where the pathway will be, when they bring the equipment to lay the asphalt, it'll end up breaking the concrete. So they're going to concrete to where they can, and they'll come back and finish the concrete at a later time. We are anticipating bridge arrival next week, and it's likely that the arrival day will also be the bridge set day. So I don't have a specific date on that. They were talking May 14th previously. It could be right in that range, so I will be sure to update you as we have that. Substantial completion for the project is still expected by June 27, full completion by July 25th. So things are going along well there. I mentioned signage earlier, so our Civic Center signage is done-ish. The ish is these monument signs at the north end and south end. So what we've contracted for is complete. We are closing in on the ability to get the Power Island signs out there. I talked to Pro Image today. They'll have all those ready by the end of the month, and we'll get them out there in June and be able to get all the wayfinding signage up on Power Island. And then the last thing in the report, Paddling Film Festival World Tour. We hosted that on April 30th. Another outstanding event, lower attendance than last year. We were a little nervous going into the event with the attendance we had, but in the end, when everything came together and that first movie was shown, there were smiles all around and people had a great time with it. So we had about 75 in attendance and raised nearly $1,000 toward an accessible launch at Medalli Park. And yes, we will be back again for 2026.
John, can you just update us on what the price is for that medallion, what your estimate is for that, and where we're at on
Yep.
that line?
So we've got about $3,000 for that so far. Our target is about $25,000. So we'll be looking for other sources as well, but this is one way because there's a direct relation, paddling and launch. So you're welcome.
Read today's ticker if you haven't. Very good overview of both Norte and Grand Traverse Parks. That partnership was really the key behind that grant, I believe, John. Is that
Absolutely.
Is that a true statement?
Yeah, and I want to make a recognition as well. So Maxwell Cameron is the county's economic development coordinator. Maxwell did a fantastic job of sourcing this grant and of bringing team together to be able to put that grant application together. So thank you to Maxwell. Thank you to Jill for all of her efforts on that as well. Jill Self from Norte, by the way.
I did have a question regarding some of the trail work and volunteerism out at Graylick there. Sometimes a path towards securing long-term involvement is MOUs, memos of understanding with different organizations. Have we explored perhaps any of those with the Mountain Bike Association, with Aloft Disc Golf, for not just getting us to having those volunteer hours to maybe help with the creation of this, but also long-term maintenance and oversight of these areas as
So
well?
we've had discussions with both groups about long-term maintenance. We've not entered into an MOU yet, so we'd like to be able to have a plan for that, but I do see us doing that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions for John while we got it? With that then, we'll move down. Strategic planning, Jamie? We met this week, so should be fresh.
We did indeed. Actually, most of the updates from our meeting this past week were very Graylick-based, and John pretty much covered a lot of the things that we went over on our updates, just talking about the volunteer plans, trying to find some new ones, the trails aspect of everything, and then the other part, though, being that we've got some upcoming meetings with East Bay Township at the beginning of June in regards to what we want to do, and I think it's the Planning Commission over there at East Bay. I think that meeting is June 3rd, where we'll be looking for support of folks to be able to come and help lend support for our plan to East Bay. So I think that was all the things that we covered at that meeting. Back to you.
Rules Committee, Jalen, I think we got stuff on the agenda tonight
Well,
from your group.
You certainly do, to my understanding. Rules here have been reviewed by the appropriate counsel for the county in advance already. I know that's something that often comes up here. That's been taken care of.
Good.
You'll see further discussion, I think, about that later here on our agenda.
Awesome work of that group. With that, Natural Education Reserve Advisory Committee, Joe is not here.
Correct.
John, I don't think there was a meeting, is there?
I think it was in March.
Okay, so we had that report last month.
Yeah.
Okay. T-Bays, Jalen?
Yeah, so probably the number one item to talk about is certainly tournament is coming up. That's going to be the 17th and 18th, and that number continues to grow. I'm sure registration must be closed by now, but there are 332 teams coming this year, which is an outstanding number of teams. Now we're all thinking, how do you fit 332 teams into Keystone Soccer Complex? The answer is you don't. It's the same number of teams that'll be on the field as we had last year. They're actually partnering with the Traverse Area Bulldogs, which is the homeschool group that provides support for in sports activities for those who are homeschooled around here, and that's just further up the road there on Garfield there. So they'll be using that space as well to ease the burden on the Keystone Soccer Complex. So that was good news to hear. It'll be the same amount as we had last year at the soccer complex. Congratulations, of course, to T-Base for drawing such interest to the area here this year especially. Also part of that, of course, is that they plan, last we spoke on, having 2 additional personnel hired from the Grand Traverse County Sheriff's Office to work privately for them at that time at the event to help continue to direct traffic in there. They were envisioning one at the entrance there for Beitner Hill to help with appropriate traffic flow there, and one further in the park to continue to encourage people to go find the right parking spot versus parking immediately near where maybe they shouldn't be. So that's good to hear. I'm sure they likely had further conversations recently with either Captain Brinks or the county regarding parking on Beitner. I'll leave that update to John if there was anything further on that. I know that was an email chain that was going back and forth. And they installed fencing for the tournament, of course, already as well. So all interesting things. Also, of course, ultimately will be coming the USASA, the Adult Soccer Association there further in the year. And my understanding is they've had the appropriate conversations with the county as well to ensure that they're still on track appropriately for that. John, any updates from you on anything else for that?
Nothing else with that. So
Sure.
they are continuing to talk with Captain Brinks and actually the Road Commission. I'm sorry, not Captain Brinks anymore.
Okay.
So the Road Commission on whether or not they need to put any signage up, and it's believed that they do not have to put that signage up.
All right. Thank you for the update.
Thank you, Jalen. Next up, Road Commission, which Joe is not here. John, is there any updates that you know of, or we?
The only update that I have from the Road Commission at this time is that at Camp Greilich property, right along Scout Camp Road, as you pass the entrance to to the camp at Scout Camp Road, you get maybe 25 yards down the road on the right-hand side. There's a small brick building. It used to house a pump for something. I don't know, something way back in the day. Jamie, you can tell us whatever that was for, but it's a derelict old building. So the Road Commission.
Pump house, water pump.
Okay.
So
So the
stuff up to, I think, probably the old Hobbs Hall, probably.
Okay. So the Road Commission's been doing some work along there, and they've had to take down some trees to clear the right-of-way. And they came to us the other day and said, hey, they showed me a picture of that building and said, this is kind of in the way for our stuff. Would you mind if we removed it? I'm like, bring it on. So they are going to take care of that for us, so we
Wow.
appreciate their support with that. So
Great.
that building will be disappearing. Thank you, Road Commission.
Thank you. All right, with that, we'll move on. Drain Commission Representative Andy Smits.
Not too much to report, been pretty much focused in helping to facilitate the region's federal stormwater permitting program. That's applications are due in about 100 days, and there's I think around 8 public agencies that are going to have to submit applications for permit. The qualifications review team has reviewed qualification statements from 8 firms that are interested in helping with that, and we've narrowed it down to 2, and there'll be probably 2 different consulting firms helping a number of different agencies get that done. So contracting for that will probably start, hopefully start and conclude next week, leaving us 93 days to get permit applications submitted. So it's quite a bit of work in a very short period of time.
200 days of work in 100 days. It's going to be great.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate the update. With that, our County Board Commissioner, Brian McAllister.
I don't really have much outside of they're working on the track and getting a bridge put in. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. It's really gonna make it pretty special down there, but not really anything more than that at this time.
All right, thank you. John, you did want to do a little update on the NER?
Yes, I thought about that after I mentioned it. That meeting was actually in April, so it has been since this meeting. And we had a couple of things that we talked about at that meeting. The River Road Roundabout, that project is still planned for 2026, and design considerations are currently being given to incorporate a trail underpass as a possibility for, well, not the River Road Roundabout. It's listed as a River Road Roundabout in here, but for the bridge at Beitner. So Beitner, where the Boardman goes underneath that. We also met with a group about Keystone Rapids stream bank erosion. So just past or just downriver from the Keystone Rapids area, we met with a group out there taking a look at that and talking about grant opportunities and coming together with all these different groups to try and form a group to be able to put together a grant. I'm trying to think of what the right word is, but a coalition, there we go, to be able to put together, to all come together and be able to put together a grant for that erosion. And then Sarah Vaughn informed us that the Ottaway Crossing footbridge, they were planning on July, but that date for the bridge has been pushed back to October at this time.
Okay.
That's what we
Thank
have.
you, John.
Yep.
I think that'll take care of all of our reports. Old business, I don't see that we've got any. With that, we're going to move on to new business. We're going to start with the Beta stop agreements.
Yes, so Beta has come to us. They currently have 2 bus stops at Civic Center, so both along Front Street. And what they have asked is they've asked to make an improvement to those bus stops and basically putting a concrete pad and a bench in that space. So we've put together the agreement, and that has gone through legal. Legal has no concerns with that, so we would just like to bring that to this group for approval. Yes.
My only question I had on the matter was, it mentions Section 6 there, that advertising in the shelter can occur. We are a little bit more particular, I think, at the Civic Center in our parks as to what advertising can necessarily happen. If their advertising runs counter to that, is that a problem for us, do you feel, or where are we at with that, perhaps?
It's a good question. We do not have control over any advertising that they would place in there. So I do believe that the public recognizes that those are Beta stops as opposed to a park entity. So I would not have that much of a concern with that.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you for asking.
John, I have just one quick question. Are they just stops along Front Street, or are they looking to also get into having a pull-off?
Just 2
Where it
stops
would
along.
change the-
Yeah, just 2 stops. There's no pull-off in those 2.
Gotcha, not yet.
Yep.
Not yet. Yeah. There was a map with kind of the markings. They're kind of at both east and west end of the park and right there. I think they're existing. The actual stop is existing.
The actual
correct?
stop is existing, correct. So there's a sign at each of those 2 locations, but there's no bench or no pad. So they'd like to add the pad and add the bench.
Did they ever give us any ridership numbers as part of the conversation? Just curious.
I don't recall you getting into that. No.
It was worth a shot.
Yeah. I mean, it's along Front Street, so I'd imagine that was probably a decent number. They're not planning on putting to go back to your other question, I just happened to think of this, they're not planning on putting a surround around that at this particular time, I do not believe.
Okay.
Bench. Okay. All right. John, we need a motion to approve. Can we do it in one, or do we have to do each one? Just one motion to approve those 2
Oh,
agreements?
we can approve, it's one agreement.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one agreement, so we just got the red line and the revised in there. But yeah, it can be one motion.
Go ahead, Jalen.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agreement with the Beta stop addition or modifications at the north end of the Civic Center Park as presented.
Second.
Second by John Solhaki. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Great. See, John's getting ready. Park rules update. Jalen, do you want to lead us in, or do we leaving this up to John?
Well, I'm certain that John will get the IT systems working here eventually. But in the meantime, I will entertain you.
Well, I was gonna say, can you entertain?
So, of course, the Rules Committee met a couple times regarding this, just making sure that we felt that the rules were an appropriate spot for adopting Camp Graylick into our parks here, making sure that we feel that we can address some of the situations that both we could potentially foresee arising, as well as some local community members also made us think about here appropriately too. So happy to say that what you have before us, we believe, should allow us to continue to operate Camp Graylick Park in accordance with the rest of our other parks today without too many limitations. John, take it away.
Excellent lead-in, thank you very much. So my apologies, because we had some oddities with the attachments that you have. And somebody had contacted me, and actually I think Linda had said that they were unable to see the red lines. So I went in and I was able to see the red line. I saw it actually this morning. I thought, okay, I was able to see that. Well, we came in here and we were looking at it, and I pulled it up, and then
No red line.
it was there, and then I pulled it up again. It was gone. I couldn't figure it out. It's just some kind of gremlin that's going on in the system. We couldn't figure that one out. So I will forward this copy to you if you'd like. But the copy that you have has all these changes. The one I've got on the screen here just has the red line items. So I wanted to point out those red line items so you're not trying to figure out what did we change in there. So, and I'll go through the high points here. So at the very top, the only thing we changed was the date on there. If I move down to item number 5, so which is the bottom of page 1, we did make, and some of the changes we made, I should mention, are we just made some grammatical changes. We didn't really make a lot of substantial changes to this. Grammatical changes for the most part, and then we added a specific rule to help accommodate the Camp Graylick property. When we went into this process, we were looking at it and saying, do these rules allow us to do the things that we want to do in all of our parks? And do they prevent us from, do they prevent people from doing the things that we don't want them to do when we are not allowing those things? So I'm going to use camping as a perfect example of that. So our park rule that is currently in place for camping says that there's no camping in our park properties without approval from the director. Now we operate Power Island. Power Island has camping. Their permit that they receive from us is their approval from the director. So in the case of Camp Graylick, we are not planning to offer camping on day 1. Eventually we will offer camping, but we're not going to offer it on day 1, and therefore we're not issuing a permit, and therefore we are not issuing that authorization to do that. So we've got a rule in place that says you cannot camp. When we are ready, we issue a permit. That rule is still functioning the way that it should be. So item number 5, as I go down, all we did simply there was we eliminated some extraneous information. So now it says to use tobacco or smoke on any county park property. We formerly had all of the park names in there, so we stripped that out to make it a little clearer. And moving down from there, item 7A. It formerly read, the playing of any radio, television, phonograph, or other sound reproduction device. And so since we are not in 1926 anymore, we felt it was appropriate to limit that and basically just limit it to the playing of any sound reproduction device. So whether that's music from a phone, or if you bring out a Victrola or whatever you might have, it covers all of that. Moving down, line number 10, or item number 10, that is the one major addition that we made. I'll call it a major addition. We added to launch a private watercraft from county park property into Rennie, Bass, or Spider Lakes. As we've already committed as a commission, that's what we've said we would do. We wanted to make sure that we memorialized that in here as appropriate. And then you'll see a number of rule number changes in there. And then moving down from there, give me one moment to find that. Item number, what I guess would be 20 in your version, to possess or use a bow and arrow, crossbow, trap, or other instrument used for hunting or trapping of animals. And we added a statement to that, which is unless approved and designated for such purposes by the director and with an approved permit issued by the director. So if our plan is to offer hunting in the future, if we offer that hunting, the permit that we would provide would give the ability to do that. And then the other piece being approved and designated for such purposes by the director. So for example, if we were hosting specific events at the range, that would be an event that we've authorized to occur. Sorry, this mouse is a little,
John, going along with that,
Yeah.
possessing the bow arrow, that would be the same as we are currently on Power Island, basically.
Correct.
If we would have a hunt,
Yep.
or Maple Bay, where we do have hunts.
Right.
Okay.
Item number 21, so we added a statement to the end of that. That is regarding discharging projectiles by air, explosive substance, or other force. The item that we added to the bottom of that is that, I'll read the entire last sentence. This section shall also not apply to any person lawfully hunting game on property that is open to hunting by rule of the commission. And then the addition is, or in connection with a firearm safety class within a designated area as authorized by the director. So as we've talked about in both our master plan as well as here as a group, our intention for the range is to be able to use the ranges, both the shotgun range and the rifle range that are on the Graddock property, on a very specific and limited use basis. So we'd use that as a permit basis. And as we mentioned here, firearm safety classes is a perfect example for something like that. So it's not going to be an open range like the Supply Road DNR range. It is for this specific purpose. Item number 27, playing or practicing of golf or disc golf, except in designated and signed areas, is the addition there. And then the next one down is now the operating of motor-driven aircraft, drones, or launching of any type of powered device capable of flight. And we took out regardless of the power source with that one. And then we wanted to make sure we were clear with this one. So the next item down, possession or discharge of fireworks. They're not permitted in any of our park properties. And that is the last change in there.
And I'll just add as well, some things that we hear sometimes with Camp Graylick is a lot of concerns about the future of camping there too, and what that looks like for either, active hours, other fires, other fire rings, lots of the surrounding the activity. And I want to make it clear that these aren't addressed in the rules specifically because we feel the rules are general standards of conduct, and that if you were camping already on the property, you would go through the approval process with the director. And a part of that is receiving a separate permit of how to camp appropriately at that site, which we already do with Power Island, of course. When you camp on Power Island, there are specific rules that apply to you as a camper. Much would apply to Camp Graylick in the future as well. That's a part of the approval process and the rules regulating specifically camping there, which are, of course, up to staff to dictate there.
To dictate.
So we look at that as the difference between park rules and management practices. So we
Yes.
make sure we have those appropriate management practices in place to regulate what's going on for that particular activity.
Sounds good. Well, it sounds like you guys put in a lot of work on this, Jalen.
It's interesting because while there may not be a ton of items, we always make sure to discuss every minor change that we make to the fullest extent as well.
And this has already been through legal review also.
Yes, it has.
Yep.
So, with that said, I'm going to open the floor. Any questions? Comments? Anyone would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt our park rules as presented today.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Grace, second by Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is post-harvest packing facilities. So we have Adam Brown and Kofi Pachavi from the Great Lakes Incubator Farm and Grand Traverse Conservation District. I almost mixed the thing and almost called you the Great Lakes Conservation District.
We'll take it.
So I'd like to introduce you both and give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit about the post-harvest packing facility.
All right, thank you very much. We are right on the hill at a very successful year at the Incubator Farm. We're proposing two new things that we see as improvements. The building that John just mentioned is an old building. I'm going to let Adam describe it a little more to you and what we're trying to do with this building. We think it's pretty exciting and it's only going to make the property better.
Yeah, so the idea is, this is a key component to the farm, and this is a place where we can increase processing of harvested food, organically produced food at the farm, and be able to store it. And the grant that we received from MDARD, Underserved Value Added, is for $90,000. We wrote that in partnership with Purpose with the Food Rescue. So this allows us to produce more food to get to food rescue that gets it into food pantries. So that's a big proponent of this project. We did get the funding to remove the transite board from the old white buildings on site. So the idea is to remove all that transite board that's filled with asbestos and just take down one of those old buildings that would take a lot to renovate to make suitable for a post-harvest handling facility and put up this new building. That building is going to be stripped of its walls anyway, so it's a nice time to just put up a nice new facility to be able to accommodate what we're trying to do at the Great Lakes Incubator Farm and producing more food for the local community and especially to the food pantries.
So we had a lot of conversation about this at our strategic planning committee. And so just to be clear on this, so if you're looking at the Great Lakes Incubator Farm, if you go to the left-hand side, right behind the main field, there's a white barn. The proposal is to eliminate that white barn and then put a new structure up in its place that would give the opportunity to host this post-harvest packing facility. And this is definitely a need for the property for them to be able to continue to support the property most effectively. One of the things that we talked about at our committee was we didn't want to put more buildings on the property, so this is a way to be able to put a functional building on the property by taking down an existing building.
Is it roughly the same footprint or any?
This one will be slightly larger. The building I'm proposing is 24 by 48. The current size of that building, I think it's 30 by, it might be 30 by 40.
That sounds about right.
Sounds about right. Slightly larger footprint. It'll be inside the current fencing. So it'll be much more convenient for processing vegetables and not going in and out of the fence. So that's another convenient feature of this. And then we'll be able to create proper drainage of all the gray water from the post-harvest handling of washing vegetables and fruits. So then, for reference, my colleague, prior to me taking this position, looked at renovating that building, and just to do the floors that would make it appropriate to use that building was over like $13,000 alone. So this is kind of, and we had, and we secured this grant funding to put this new building in place that will serve us better, and we can kind of start from scratch and make it what we want.
We get asbestos off the
Yeah,
site.
no worries.
And the
Yeah.
asbestos is getting off the site, yes.
That building that's being removed, is that, I think that's already like a pole barn style building.
yeah.
then. Okay.
Post and frame, probably.
Yeah, it's slab floor.
Okay. Okay, I know what you're talking about now.
So is it going to be in the same location as the one we're ripping out, or is it actually going to be in kind of where the
Slightly forward.
kind of the little hoop tent thing that you had this
Yes,
past
and
year?
it's the same location as where that tent was last year that had collapsed on us, yep.
Yeah, that one.
Questions?
Any other questions?
Any
Sorry,
other
I don't wanna
questions?
steal your thunder.
Actually, I do have a question. Obviously, there's the one side that has the awning on it. Would that then be facing inward into the farm
Yes.
area then? Okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be, 48 east to west inside the fence.
They're gonna building just gonna butt up to the fence?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody would like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Charlie?
Yeah, we approve the removal of the existing storage barn in addition to the post-harvest facility.
Support. Support by John Sohaki. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Passes unanimously.
I'd like to just add, I think you're doing a really nice job out there. I drive by and keep an eye on the progress, and I think you're doing a really good job.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Abbott's been a great addition.
Yeah.
Addition.
Well, gentlemen, I'll have you stay up there, and we've got a second item on the agenda for the Great Lakes Incubator Farm, and that is the addition of a farm stand. So this is another one that we had good conversations over a couple of different times at our strategic planning committee, and I believe this also to be a benefit for the property. So, Gentlemen, I'll let you take that one away too.
Yeah, so this building is mainly used, it's a small little shed-like building that'll be in the front. It'll be north of the driveway, and this is going to be used as a tool for students of the training program that work alongside me to understand what it's like to market their product, and any potential incubator farmers to also have a channel to move some of their product. There's no, and it should say in your notes there that there's no real licenses or permitting we need to sell raw food out of this, and that's all we're looking to do originally. And if there's any additional permitting, we can do that when necessary if we decide to put any local value-added products in that stand. Again, this is not going to be a big market stand. It's just kind of a little roadside stand that's going to allow the students to understand how to display and market their products.
I want to add too, this is a tool, this part is really critical. When we started this program, one of the main things that we wanted to do was address an issue that all farmers face. Your traditional farmer knows how to farm. They are not good business people. So the goal of this program is really teach these new farmers the business part of farming. And this is a very good tool for us to do that. And we are at a point in the process now where we should do this to take them to this next step. So that's why we're trying to do this.
I will let you know that we've, Adam and Kofi have had an opportunity to talk to Grand Traverse County Sheriff as well as the Road Commission to discuss any traffic or any other concerns that they may have, and both of those groups were they were fine with having this on property. They just asked that no parking be occurring along the road, so they do have designated parking spaces, what will be just behind or just past the
Kind of pull
the
it
building.
in.
Yeah, you pull in and then just
Garage.
kind of turn to the right before the garages.
In my understanding, it doesn't look like it's a roadside stand. It does appear to be further into the
Yes.
property based on the
Right, it's
description.
not going to be on the road, correct? Thank you.
Which will bring them in, hopefully.
Right.
Will you also use the stand to promote the fact that that is a county park as well? I hope you will.
Yeah, we have signage out front that says the project is a partnership with the county, and we're proud of that, and we appreciate the partnership and your support. And if we need additional signage, we can have county brochures in there, and we can promote the parks in any way you want.
Excellent, thank
Yeah.
you.
Galen, I think their opening day should be the same day as the big tournament.
Perfect. No problems
300
with
and
that.
how many teams? I
Yeah,
mean,
332, yeah.
Sorry.
I'm going to put a bridge
Have
from
to put
Keystone
some humor
over.
in here.
No doubt they'll be running back and forth across the street.
Across
It'll
the
be
street,
great.
but that's okay.
Yeah.
They're only going 55.
Nobody's going 55
right.
that day.
Not that day.
Back to the, any other discussion or motion?
Yeah, just real quick, I would
Okay.
just encourage probably maybe some information there. I know you said that you just have some signage, but I think that there's an educational opportunity in regards to what the incubator farm is, what it does, and some things where you could be able to promote what this is versus just a standard, it's not the best words, but farm stand like all the other farm stands. That this has a special purpose.
Great.
And that there's more to it versus, some educational aspect of what you're doing and why this is, works with the rest of the project that you have there.
Great chance to tell the story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I
it's
would
an
content-
opportunity for students to be in the market while customers run in and be able to share their story with them and what they're learning there. Because we're not just growing food to put in that stand. Everything's steeped in education there. So we're trying to promote the program. We want them to understand, the relationship with customers. So that's a good point. We can put up some good signage with potentially some seed grant money from Rotary Charities, who I started filling out the application, and they keep asking me, they keep emailing me when I'm going to apply. So
I would
we're
also
hopeful for the funding for this project.
I would think possibly also that when it is staffed by some of the students and things, they may not necessarily be chatterboxes in regards to interacting with the shoppers versus just, hi, how are you, and I'll take your $5 for these great peppers or whatever it is, versus, hey, let me talk to you about incubator farm. And so having other things for people to go, oh, this is cool. Now I understand what's going on a little bit more.
Yeah, and we have a great marketing team at the district, and
Yeah.
we can definitely get some great signage in there to help promote the program.
I would also just, on a side note, contend that a 12 by 16 foot structure is not necessarily a small structure when it comes to a farm stand, compared to like a 4 by 8 that you might see on other family farms.
That's impressive.
So we're talking almost 200 square foot building here that I would say is not necessarily a small farm stand versus a 4 by 8 or something,
Okay.
just of note.
Can I ask one more
Yeah.
quick question? You guys do such a great job donating so much food to food pantries. I'm assuming this won't defer any big
No.
impact on that, right?
No,
We're
thankfully you
still-
guys just approved the project. That's going to help us
That's what I
produce
figured. I
a
was like,
lot
we just
more.
talked about this food pantry.
So
Okay.
we're hoping to produce 8,000 more pounds of food per year, having this extra cold storage in the post-harvest handling facility, and launching this new training program where I have more help on my side to produce food for those food pantries. So
Excellent.
yeah, we're not gonna. Taylor Moore and I are in close relationship, and the food pantries need more food, and we're gonna do our best to fill the gaps that they need. Yeah.
With that, Jalen?
I'll make a motion that we approve the addition of a market stand at the Great Lakes Incubator Farm as presented.
I'll second.
Motion by Jalen, second by Grace. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously. I want you guys back next year, or, through the winter. Tell us about how good this story is.
It's a
All
good
right.
one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you, team. Appreciate it.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, I want to hear about the story.
Stop
Yeah.
by, get some.
We're right there.
All right. Yeah, I know. All right. Well, I think that's our agenda for today. Jamie, we're right on time to let you out of here.
See you, Jamie.
Take care, Jamie. Thank you.
Second public comment. Anybody like to make public comment? I assume you're a student?
We will sign that for you.
We will sign that for you because you're going to need it for your instructor.
Ooh,
Got any comments for us?
Ooh,
Step up.
make sure
Give
you
us
tell
your
them, extra
name.
credit points.
Did you learn something?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a student at Traverse City West Senior High, and I have one question regarding the south side restrooms at the Civic Center. How would you limit or minimize the vandalism on them?
Okay. So we do have cameras there, and we would plan additional support from that standpoint.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and we will also have staff that are at that building with that two-bay garage on the back. So that's an additional set of eyes that are there.
Okay.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming. Yes, ma'am.
please, Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Only one, Linda? Okay.
I'm Linda Deneen. I'm a resident of East Bay Township.
Pull your
There we go.
mic down
There we
just a
go.
little so you can
It's
record it.
Linda Deneen. I'm a resident of East Bay Township and riparian on Spider Lake. And I just want to compliment the work that the Rules Committee has done on going over those practically word by word by word, so that the meaning is clear and that folks will hopefully follow them. Fingers crossed. But I'm just really impressed with the time and the effort that you folks spent on developing that set. It's really good work, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jalen, thank you for leading that, and who else is on the?
Oh, we've got John. We've
John?
got Jamie on there as well.
Thank you for your participation in those meetings.
It is. That's a good point.
Any other notices, commissioner comments, notices? Jalen?
Our community has had some changes, perhaps our end of our city partners, in terms of what might be permitted and what is enforced in some of their parks recently. I would like John just to take a moment to read our policy regarding camping in our parks, if we could, please.
Give me one moment to pull that back up.
Yes, I know you weren't. You didn't have it in front of you. I just feel that may be prudent. That question may arise from people in the community.
the exact line here.
Don't let all the work go unnoticed, right?
Yeah, please read my rules.
All right, item number 14, to camp on county, so this is a prohibited item. And the prohibited item is to camp on county property unless approved and designated for such purposes by the director and with an approved permit issued by the director. So camping is not permitted on our property without a designated permit.
Thank you very much, John.
You're welcome.
Any other notices?
Sounds good. John's going.
We do have one. So we were talking earlier about, I think somebody had mentioned our site plan review process that we're going through. And wanted to turn this over to Kara. She's been leading the effort on on that process, and just wanted to have her give some background on it.
Yep, so we talked a little bit about this in strategic planning the other day, but basically what we're looking at is going before East Bay Township Planning Commission on June 3rd for what we're calling a sketch plan review. So for us to open the park, typically we would need an approval of our site plan, which, because parks are a use by right in the lakes area, we could potentially do administratively. We talked to Claire Carner and Beth Friend a while ago, and everybody felt that the right thing to do was go before the Planning Commission so that it's out in the public, there's some transparency there, questions can be answered. And so it was decided that the site plan review would be a formal process of the Planning Commission. The sketch plan review piece of that is kind of a conceptual review, an intro, that instead of focusing on surveys and topographical maps and the nuts and bolts of lighting plans, it's going to be a little bit more focused on the mission, the vision, the plans that we've come up with and approved as part of the park master plan, and also which specific pieces of our phases we're asking to be approved within this. So this sketch plan review and site plan review takes a chunk out of phases 1, 2, and a little bit of 3, but leaves out the more complex parts like the archery, the gun range, and the camping, because we are still figuring those things out. We figured that to table the whole thing while we make those plans doesn't serve us well in trying to get the park open this year. We feel pretty good about the plans that we've got in place for those first pieces, particularly more passive recreation and things like trails that we've already put a ton of work into. So we'll provide everybody with the PowerPoint. So we've given East Bay Township the PowerPoint that will go into the Planning Commission's packet. We can provide that with this commission as well so you can review it. We'd love to have attendance if anybody who's able to. We are hoping that the word will get around as well so that people who have past concerns based on what happened with previous site plan reviews can get those. So we want to know what we're looking at. We want to know what concerns are still out there so that we can field those appropriately. And when we do submit our full packet, we have responses ready to go. We don't want this to be delayed. I'll add that we did consider briefly retaining a consultant for the purposes of preparing a site plan review, a land use consultant. We simply don't have the budget for it, and so we decided to just have at it. The response from Claire Carner has been pretty positive, and I think she'll raise a flag if she thinks that we need more technicalities than what we can accomplish in-house with our staff. Anything I missed?
No, you got
Any
it.
questions? Yeah.
Just to be clear, that goes to the Planning Committee for East Bay Township, not the Zoning Appeals Board, correct?
Correct.
Okay, very good. You know why I ask.
And I think one thing that we also talked about is how this whole plan really has been vetted through a lot of experts, trail planners, disc golf. I mean, you know, the whole Loft Disc Golf. Greg Argyle runs a huge tournament throughout all of northern Michigan, is very into the disc golf. I mean, we're running this through some really positive people in having that background. So it's not just something we're just popping out and saying, well, let's do this. It's really well thought out, and that's what we hope to really bring to everybody is this is not just, you know, some side night thing, you know.
Well, this is based off of the plan. We've seen that the county Board of Commissioners has seen, right, it's all spurring
It's all
off of those
spurring off
documents.
that
So,
same thing.
yeah.
Yep, and I would add that we have a big focus on partnerships. There is a slide in the PowerPoint that has, I take this classic picture every time we go out to Greilich on Fridays. There is a picture from each week of John on the ground with a big map and all of our partners gathered around. So we've got Land Conservancy, TART, NIMBA, everybody is there. And I think that that speaks volumes that, you know, it's not lip service. The conservation easement matters. We're going to be respectful. We've had people on site physically repeating week after week that are alongside us as we figure this out.
And I think our Rules Committee reflected that in the rule changes that got implemented.
Certainly.
So that meeting will be June 3rd, 6:30 PM, East Bay Township Hall.
Down the road. Any other commissioner comments? With that, we're adjourned at 6:39. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
everybody.
You know why I asked? Just in case you needed to preclude yourself.
Yeah, no.
You're on East Bay.
Zoning.
Right, yeah, zoning.
No, yeah. And I just, actually, I want to go as a citizen also. and-
Yeah, for sure. Do our rules now need to go up to the board of commissioners to decide that?
They will be a consent calendar item.
Cool. Okay, that's great. They
I
won't
think
care
that's
about that.
it.